Many of us have been married for a very long time, and over the years we might forget or not realize exactly what makes a solid marriage. And in today's video, I want to present the 7 pieces of a solid marriage. And I'm not talking about the perfect marriage, I'm talking about a solid marriage that can last the test of time. And I think that if you've been married for a long time, we might lose sight of these 7 components. And if you aren't married yet, you might want to realize what these 7 components are, because this can help you to be sure if the relationship you're in could be a good solid marriage eventually. So let's deep dive in today and examine those 7 concepts of a solid marriage. So let's deep dive into what a solid marriage looks like. The first concept that I want to bring up in today's video is support. And I know that many of you automatically think about financial, cash, but what I'm talking about when I mean support is that cheerleader. Having that person on your side that cares about you, that cares about the growth, that cares about what you're working on, and is there for you when you're up and there for you when you're down. Marriage is an interesting concept because it's almost like that yin-yang situation. One person can be really up and things are really working for them, and the other person may feel very down and things don't seem to be working for them. And so in this situation, it can be challenging, but we need to support each other and not be competitive. And that's what sometimes can happen in a marriage over time, is that somebody is being very successful in their career and somebody doesn't feel as successful in their career. And so there can be this competitive feeling, or also somebody might not feel like they're getting enough support from their spouse. And this is very important, that a mental and emotional support. You're there, you're listening, you're being supportive, and you want to help that person. The second concept is that we want to have things in common. And I do agree that opposites do attract, but when you really think about the perfect opposite, there might be opposite in activities and career directions, the different looks. Each person has a different look, or maybe even a different personality, but they have some of the same values in common. So you value the family the same. You value, if you're wanting to have children, you have the same value decision on that children are important to you. Also, you value religion or spirituality to some degree similar. And this can bring each other together on the big issues. And the third thing is that we have to get along. And in any relationship, we have to get along with the other person, whether it's a friendship or even at work. You want to get along with your work family. And in a marriage, it's just as important the same, is that we want to get along with each other. And how do we get along with each other? Well, we talk, we communicate, we have camaraderie, we listen to one another, we appreciate the other person, and we actually care about how they feel. We might not always agree with them, but we are actually there to listen. And that's how anybody gets along, especially a marriage. So let's dive into the fourth piece of a solid marriage, and that is the physical, the sexual, the intimacy, the emotional intimacy connection. And I think that's very important. And whether it's, hand holding or giving a hug or a kiss or sex or what have you, I feel like having some sort of intimacy is important. And it's very important because I think sometimes we lose that connection. And I think some people resonate more with a physical connection, others resonate more without a physical connection, but I think that that's some important connection that you have to have in the marriage. And I think like anything, it's like even if it's a pat on the back or a hug, or if it is actual, physically connecting in a sexual action, all these things do aid and abet as far as moving the relationship forward and connecting each person emotionally, but also physically. The fifth piece that I find very interesting is that we need to have a spiritual or religious connection with our spouse. Now, we might not always agree where we go after this lifetime or what it all looks like, but we're able to talk about those types of things and not get angry or not get defensive, but also be interested even in what the other person believes to some degree. And also having that same interest is very important, because if one person doesn't believe that there is anything past this life and the other person believes in this high spirituality concept, it's going to be tough for the two people to really connect. So having kind of that consistent ability to talk, but also maybe having similar thought patterns. They don't have to be the same, but being able to resonate with one another and communicate at a level where both people feel heard. The sixth piece is that we want to grow together. And the only way we can grow together is to individually grow. So we have to work on ourselves, understanding what makes us tick. What do we want in life? What are our goals and desires? And how do we feel? Connecting with our emotions, connecting with the things that we want to do, dealing with resentments, talking about how we feel, clearing the air. And we're growing ourselves, but at the same time, that other person needs to be growing as well. And so it's that inner commitment to ourselves of being better than we were yesterday, but it's also that commitment to be there and watch and be there for your significant other to see, are they doing well? How are they doing? Being able to ask the questions, being able to communicate on a deeper level. And sometimes you might feel like you're shut down to some degree, but continuing to have that communication so that both people can grow. Because if one person grows, very far and is doing all these different things in their life and the other person's more stagnant, that's not going to be a solid marriage and it's not going to last. The seventh is learning together. We want to learn together. We want to learn and understand things together. And what I mean by that is that we can take on new hobbies and new things together and being able to learn things that neither one of us were doing before and coming together to do something. Or maybe we're learning a philosophy or some sort of interesting, having those esoteric conversations and really taking on just different ideas and possible thought processes and taking that in together. And that can be very interesting too, because we're not just holding on to our old ideologies or our thoughts or how we were raised, but we're deciding, hey, I have these thoughts and I have these theories about life and I want to really explore that, and taking that on with the other person can be really gratifying because both of you are exploring and understanding not only your life, also your married life, but also, the exterior world and why we're here and what we're doing. I do think that, understanding what a solid marriage looks like is important. And I think understanding those components, because I think we get lost when we watch TV and film, we can get lost on what a solid marriage is. We also can get really lost when we look at what maybe our parents' marriage was like. Because maybe their marriage is obviously what we looked at on a day-to-day basis, but was that marriage really a solid marriage? And some of us may have taken on maybe some not so good strategies or some pieces of that marriage that we saw acted out day to day in front of us throughout our lives that might need to be changed. And so in an upcoming video, I'm going to be talking about the marriages that we saw probably demonstrated in front of us, aka our mom and dad, and how that impacted us, and maybe how that impacts us in our current marriage, and maybe why we might have some issues in that current marriage. Oh, by the way, I have lots of videos on marriage and the roommate situation, overcoming the roommate situation as well in marriage. If you like this video, please share it with any family or friends that might need to see it, maybe even your spouse or possible spouse, so that they can get some information to you. And in the meantime, don't forget to live your true life.